Call meeting to order. This is the Barrington Planning Board meeting of September 12th, 2024. I do not believe we have any Form As, right, Chris? Nothing came in.
Right.
So we'll move on to approving the minutes of August 22nd. We have a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Second.
We got a second by Malcolm. Do we have any further discussion on the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. The fourth item on the agenda is a leftover from last meeting when we looked at some funding opportunities under the Community Compact Best Practices Program. I didn't know if anyone had looked further into any of those, or Chris, if you had considered them further, if there's anything you thought was appropriate for us to apply under.
I think it could help supplement if the boards decide to move forward with a master plan update in some way. It could help supplement some of those costs.
I agree totally.
But as it is, I know housing and livable communities best practices, we do a lot of it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's true. All right, Chris, do you mind refreshing my memory? I thought I had that form with me, but is that on a rolling basis? Or is that got a deadline? Rolling basis, okay,
Rolling.
all right. We'll keep that in mind. I think even just some of what we've heard so far, like maps updates would be good to have and things like that, so. We'll do that. Anything else on community best practices? Any other thoughts? No?
I said everything last time.
Okay. Recognizing we have some folks here in the audience, I wondered if we wanted to move citizens to speak up and just invite people to speak. Is that all right with everybody?
sure.
Okay, all right, so we'll skip ahead to citizen speak time. Did either of you have anything you wanted, anything in particular that brings you here today?
I was just asked to present the talks.
Okay, just in terms of Kim's minute, if you don't mind giving your name for the
Sorry,
yeah.
Julie Danager.
Yes, thanks, Julie, appreciate that. Okay, so in terms of our master plan discussion, okay, great, thanks, Julie. And Fred, similarly,
The Affordable Housing Trust, Fred Clark, 388 Park Street. The Affordable Housing Trust has just begun to look at the master plan. We're sort of grappling with how we fit in since we were created in 2017 by town meeting 4 years after the master plan. It was actually an action item in the master plan. I've had a chance to review all of the master plan again. And it's a great document and it had a lot of things and I'm impressed with how many things have been accomplished. I remember being part of it at the fire station where we had focus groups and little post-its to stick on the wall and things like that when we were doing community service. So we'll keep you updated as to how the Affordable Housing Trust feels like we can come in on the master plan.
sure. And so just for both of your benefit, just in terms of where we are with item 5 on the agenda, master plan discussion. So we had sent out a letter to other boards and committees recently. And so chairs, I hope, have received those and shared them with the committees. And in general, what we wanted to just communicate out is that in the last couple of months, we have started taking a look at the master plan. And Fred, just as you had said, where are we in the implementation of it? It's 12 years old or going on 12 years old. A lot has been accomplished and a lot has changed in the community. And so we thought it was appropriate to sort of take stock, where are we in moving forward with implementing the master plan, and then begin a series of conversations with boards and committees, many of which have been created since the master plan was created, to understand kind of what are the big issues that we're grappling with and can that feed into an update to the master plan. So it's a long process. We are having a meeting on the 25th, is that it? This was
Fifth, 26th, oh, there's games.
the Tuesday. Please help me out here, our meeting with the select board.
Monday.
The
23rd.
Monday, the 23rd.
23rd.
joint meeting with the select board, and so one of our agenda items is to try and come up with an agenda for that meeting. What do we want to cover with the select board? Given that we only have an hour, we could probably go on for like hours and hours. So, after that meeting with the select board, we're hoping to put together a schedule where one of us could come to one of your committee meetings and have a conversation about what some of those issues are. So the goal with the letter that we submitted was really just to try and get your juices flowing as far as start thinking about that so that we can have a productive discussion with you in hopefully a couple of weeks or 2 months or so. Yeah. Anybody have anything they wanted to add? Mike, representing that accurately?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, cool. Right,
It's just that they might want to know we've been working on it for months and it'll probably be months. more.
yeah, it's a lot, we're fitting it in between other business, right? Chris, is there one online, right, that has their hand raised or any, I can't see the way the screen is shared, if we have any attendees.
If I can see the attendees, there's 2 folks online for everybody's edification. You can click the attendees tab there, Brandy, in the Zoom screen, and you can see. Top right.
Yeah,
Hold on.
yeah, you had it.
No,
There you go. There. They got it.
no, that's panelists.
Ah,
That's attendees, okay.
all right.
This,
Yes,
sorry, once again, Julie Anager, just for some clarification, are we reviewing, any part of the master plan?
yeah,
tonight?
that's what we're gonna move to next. I
Okay.
just wanted to see if,
Okay.
any of the participants online wanted to make any comments at this point. Okay. So seeing none, we'll move on to master plan. Yes, so Julie, to your, question, our goal today was to review, chapter 4, 5, and 6. Chapter 4 is natural resources, open space and recreation, which I think sort of fits neatly in the parks wheelhouse. Yeah. So did we all get a chance to read it? Yes, okay. I guess we could just kind of go around real quickly with everyone to see if there were any issues that really jumped out at you in terms of changes or where we are in terms of meeting the goals that are listed under open space and recreation.
I'll just note for the board,
Yes,
there have been changes in terms of more land added to conservation status purchased by nonprofits like Berkshire Natural Resources Council, et cetera. Trustees Reservations, Great Barrington Land Conservancy. And I think I provided that table of acreage when we reviewed the demographic data a couple of meetings ago.
Yeah.
So that's one of the major changes in this particular section. There are 2 bullets on the first page of this of the open space section, and it says success in this topic will depend on better utilizing and maintaining the open space and recreation resources that the town already has. And part of that gets to the fact that there is, at least it was discussed during the time of the last master plan, there's a lot that we have that is not well utilized, and that going out and purchasing more land and possibly taking more land off the tax rolls has to be judged with that balance in mind. And so that was a guiding principle here. And another bullet there on the first page of the section is a discussion about working with nonprofit groups and the property owners themselves. Two really important considerations as we talk about the town's open space and recreation and natural resources, conditions and needs and strategies.
Chris, I appreciate that comment about the cost benefit of taking lands off the tax rolls and putting them in conservation, or making them available to the public. Do you have, off the top of your head, any sense of the economic benefit of that? Because I think there is some data about, you know, that wisely planned conservation land can actually drive economic development in your community.
It certainly can. That's a great point. Wisely planned conservation and recreation work can, certainly lift the quality of life of the entire community and the social interaction of the entire community. Particularly now, we're aware that it lifts community members who may be disadvantaged in some way for income or language or in some other way. That parks have incredible social and community benefits. Lands also have benefits for, trees and climate change and carbon capture, food growing, so there are all kinds of benefits. And it's certainly true that land in conservation status or in agricultural status has less of a fiscal impact than developed land. It requires less in services.
I think, Pedro, you were curious about whether or not we could get an updated map about land cover, like where lands had been preserved and how cover has changed, right?
Yeah, I was also interested in, I guess, developing, I thought we could update a map, but in developing a map that just shows the connection between all of the recreational spaces in town,
Mhm.
just to get a sense, because I don't know all of them, I haven't visited all of them personally. I think it'd just be nice to 10 years from now to see what,
Mhm.
it would be nice to have a map from 2000 today. And then compare it to what we have today,
Mhm. Yeah,
so that we can see what has been done and what connections are made and that sort of thing.
Chris, as we move forward with an open space and recreation plan, is that something that would be produced out of that document?
Definitely would be, yes.
So that may be something that can be leveraged into an update. And I can't remember, does GB Trails have a online?
They have limited maps,
Okay,
they're not comprehensive, they're different trails.
do you know of any other like comprehensive trail map? Julie? No, okay.
The a while-
BNRC's got-
oh, sorry. I was gonna say a while back, there was a group called GB Trails and Greenways.
Yeah.
That was a collaborative group with all of the nonprofits and state agencies working in land conservation and trail development. It was funded by National Park Service for a time. The groups sort of dwindled before COVID. But they had maintained kind of a vision map, and I think that might be an appendix 2 of the master plan. I think in this particular chapter.
Probably a good idea for us to look at the maps also.
Well,
I did not do that.
Yeah, the volume 2 has a lot of.
Yeah, I was mostly focused on
A
reading.
lot
the
of
text.
data. I didn't see that vision.
So,
There is a reference to that group in here, but I didn't see the vision.
Hmm. Well, in any case, we can,
Oh, is it trails and greenways, other trails and trail opportunities, page 81?
No.
Page 80 and 81.
in figure 44 on page 81.
So trails, page 79 of appendix 2. Talks about the various trails. Appalachian Trail, Housatonic River Walk, Housatonic River Greenway, Lake Municipal Forest, Beartown, Monument, Flag Rock, Fountain Pond. And some of these have had expansion of trails on it, McAllister, East Rock, Biker Arboretum. Project native, so I mean, there's not even the BNRC ones listed, right? That could be updated. And, but yeah, figure 44, And appendix 2 is the
Hmm.
trails and greenways vision map. I don't know, Malcolm, you're looking at online, is it colored there?
Yeah, it is.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's got green highlighting and
You can put it on screen
Wait.
if you want.
open space.
Oh,
is-
that would be great. Thank you. It'd be interesting to see what progress has been made here.
Yeah, right.
Like that Housatonic Rail Trail, I don't know, have you guys all walked on that one? The one that goes to West Stockbridge?
Yeah.
That's a lovely trail. to walk on. Lovely,
Can everybody see this?
yes.
Have you walked that section when it crosses one
Can you make it a
eighty-three
little bigger,
to
Chris?
the other side?
I've only taken it to Berkshire Gas. And then it gets kind of jumbled
Yeah.
at that point. And are there different, it's a little bit hard to discern on the screen, Chris, but it looks like the legend has two different colors, maybe, like a purple and a red, I'm having a hard time distinguishing them. Oh, is one proposed and one existing?
The small purple is proposed, for example, the Housatonic Rail Trail here where my cursor is listed as proposed.
Okay,
Some are existing, some are just bike routes. Yeah,
that would be a great one to update. And then overlay with park facilities, right, and show connectivity.
Yeah. Is the Riverwalk on there?
yeah, you'll see it in the inset here.
Chris, I have a question about sidewalks. Do sidewalks get this weird kind of thing where they go somewhere between transportation and open space and rec, or are they squarely in transportation?
What are you getting at?
Well, I guess more like funding wise.
A sidewalk that is built within a road right of way is part of the road system and is not eligible, for example, for CPA funds. A trail or hard surface walkway that is not within the highway right of way
Mhm.
would be eligible.
And so, look at, I mean, where I'm coming from is, like, during this section, like, outdoor and recreation, I mean, I think, like, for any community, recreation should really start in, like, being able to walk out your door and go for a walk, right, on the roads. And so, and I don't know. It mentioned, what is it? Mentioned here,
The transportation section has some sidewalk mapping, which also will have to be updated.
yeah, and it mentioned the walkability studies.
Uh-huh.
Is there like a document?
There is. Did I not send it to the board last time?
There's a tonic one.
Mhm.
Yeah, it mentioned the Housatonic one, but is there one? Is there one for all of Great Barrington?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
You know, for that type of thinking, you might turn to the complete streets plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like an update to that?
Right.
Okay.
There's data in there, maybe some maps and priority projects, and maybe it needs to be updated too.
So Brandy,
Yes.
I think what I've been lobbying for years is that the town should really have a map that's accessible on the town website that highlights the best places, the best roads to walk on. I mean, there are probably 100 people a day that walk by my house. And, you know, the only people that know about it are Steiner people. You know, so I think it would be a benefit to highlight those roads. Also, access to the Green River, you know, which is a huge draw,
Yeah,
and it's all across private land.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And so I think, and a lot of it goes across my land, and I think there should be some way to deal with that.
mhm.
Um,
In what way, Jonathan?
well,
I'm thinking about like right across this, on Seacon Cross
Yeah.
and the beach right there.
Yeah, well, that's private land.
I know.
Yeah,
one.
and so the only legal way that you can access the Green River is if you drop in from the public right of way.
Mhm.
So you have
Over the bridge,
to, you have
jump
to, you have
over
to
the
jump off, you have to jump off the bridge.
And walk in the river.
And walk in the river, yeah.
But the owner does not mind, does not say anything except.
Well, they can change tomorrow.
It easily could, but there's signs that no alcohol and no this and
Yeah,
that.
and, yeah,
One thing we
Yeah.
learned about that kind of situation when we were doing some intensive community outreach, we learned that people who maybe feel more vulnerable, maybe don't speak English, don't feel as vested in the community, are not willing to trespass to the extent that somebody who's lived here a long time or speaks English or knows the laws very well, some people may feel less willing to do that than others, which prevents a pretty significant part of the population from accessing the Green River in a comfortable way. And so it's something that's come up and hopefully we can address in the future.
So I mean, I think we should have on our website, all kinds of recreation options. And, and have a drop down for walking and bicycling or playing frisbee or, whatever you want to do in the town.
How about an app on your phone, right?
There you go.
whatever, yeah.
The
I mean,
DP Parks
But
app.
something that's easy for people to find,
Mhm.
that's the,
Yeah,
but anyway,
But,
we're getting in the weeds here.
yeah,
but the town,
No,
the
but-
town website is the first place anyone.
I agree with
Would
that.
logically
Yeah,
go.
It'd be easy and.
I mean, you may want to give them the option at that point of downloading an app that would have maps on it for,
Whatever, yeah,
yeah.
I don't know how to solve it, I just.
Yeah.
And a corollary to that is I wanted to ask Pedro about being a cyclist. And how safe are we in Great Barrington for cyclists? And are there dedicated paths that you ride or not?
and
Nowhere safe
Jeremy
anymore.
can respond to that too.
I don't know.
You guys
I
like,
can't
Do
see
you
it. We don't ride on roads anymore. We just ride on rail trails. So we go to New York, or we go up to Ashwiltcook, or we go out to Northampton, we go to over the Hudson Bridge, but riding on roads is really
So
not,
dangerous.
it is dangerous, especially when you get older.
The combination of like people not knowing, like bicyclists not knowing like the rules of the road or obeying them.
Yeah.
And then with distracted and short fused drivers, it's like not a good combination.
We're not different from any other community in the Berkshires.
I don't think so. I think it is sort of a challenge
We're an artery too.
regionally, yeah,
So,
because we have
we get
the
a
state
lot of-
highways going through us and. I mean, there are now dedicated bike paths that have been, not that bike paths, bike lanes that have been put in as road projects have happened. There's a little bit more share the road signage that I've seen. I think that could probably be improved. But I think you're right, biking is tricky.
And it's gotten worse with e-bikes because now people that don't know how to ride are going 25 miles an hour down the road.
It's a
And so it's
really
really
big way.
dangerous. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's.
Whereas it used to have to be super fit to.
To get to 25.
Yes.
We'd have to along the road at 12.
I mean, I honestly think cycling is something, I mean, it's recreation, right? But it's also transportation. And
Yeah.
probably we should make sure we are talking about how how cycling has changed. And
Yeah.
that's a really good point that you're making.
Yeah.
And then add texting while e-biking, right? And then who knows what's happening,
Listening to the radio.
right?
But it's also like, when it's like transportation, then it's, you have different. And still, I think people are using bicycling for transportation. Where their means might be a little less, and so they're using regular bikes on sidewalks just to get from here to there, you know, quicker than walking. We don't have like great networks for that.
Right, yeah, I saw somebody just yesterday riding their bike down the sidewalk on Main Street, that's like,
Yeah, Main
Yeah.
Street's, Main Street's tough.
then you're taking out pedestrians at the same
Yeah.
time.
But I applaud the strategies that people use to get around the roundabout on their bike.
Oh, really? I haven't witnessed that.
Yeah,
Going over the middle.
they're going any which way. Sidewalks, whatever.
I mean, a bike is a vehicle, if I'm not mistaken.
Like it's a vehicle, you're
Yeah.
supposed to obey all the laws
That's
that
what I thought.
vehicle, other vehicles, but,
And they have rights to the road.
and they have, and equally they have rights to the road, but then they have to obey all the, and so it's. You have like a,
Yeah,
yeah, on both sides, it's problematic,
it's like a whole separate issue, right? Biker education, so,
yeah.
Chris, the land at Rising, that belonged to GE, does the town own that land now?
The large parcel on the west side of Rising Pond? Yeah?
Yeah.
Not officially yet. But the town will own that, yes. It's about 100 and almost 150 acres.
How about another question? Where's Reservoir Rocks?
Yeah, that was my question too.
It's
Yeah,
up
it's a-
east side of town, up by the East Mountain Reservoir off of Quarry or Pine Street.
Yeah, you hit a pine and it
Really?
turns into.
Is that
quarry,
the-
and you just keep going.
Yeah,
It's part of East Mountain.
There's
Yeah.
kids that, I'm
Yeah,
not a
fine.
climber, but there's
Yeah.
climbers that go back.
Oh, that's supposed to be
There,
amazing fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not open to public, is it?
I have not been up there personally. I have just seen kids come down there
Yeah.
with their climbing gear.
there's a,
I mean, that's,
Two
that,
spots.
if that were able to be promoted in the town, that would be an attraction. I mean,
There may be ownership, I'm not sure what the land ownership
I don't know
issues
what- I
are
don't
there.
know
I mean, I
what-
think there's actually, like a path of sorts that goes all the way to Eisner.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
From
really?
Quarry, yeah. Have you been back there? Do you know?
not for a long time, but.
maybe we can turn it into a road and get rid of the bridge.
Let's not have that discussion here tonight.
People climb on East Rock too, like the path up. to
Yeah,
East Rock,
climbing,
there's a
I
couple
don't think was
spots.
really touched upon here. I don't think, I've never heard of Barrington as like a climbing back up.
You know,
I don't-
I've heard people say that the climbing here is equivalent to the gunks.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool. I just afraid to know what the dogs are.
What
Yeah.
about,
Google like rock climbing in Great Barrington, you'll get a lot of bouldering videos of Reservoir Rocks.
Interesting. What was that, Jonathan?
what about tracks in town? I used to live next to Fairfax High School, and like
Yeah,
every day after work, I would go and run on the track.
yeah. I mean, I didn't see in here that
It
we
doesn't mention it.
mentioned the amenities associated with the schools, but they are certainly. I mean, Fred was just telling me that he plays tennis up at the high school. I know people that are playing pickleball up at the high school, so.
People
Maybe
definitely,
Simon's Rock.
The other thing that I don't think is in here is how the Hoosie Dome has been converted as a recreational resource. And that falls under parks, does it not?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
There's pickleball, there's an online sign up for pickleball on Saturdays, I believe. And there are other leagues that play. And they usually come before parks with, special permission to use the space.
Mhm.
I think my neighbor plays basketball there 3 mornings a week.
Yeah.
Following up to what you said, Jonathan, about having information on the website for the town. I mean, one of the things that you see, I was looking at the implementation tables versus the actual articles in the master plan.
Yeah,
And where are we with certain things, but we seem to be not wanting to do signage. They can't keep this whole notion of letting people know where something is and how do you
Parking.
identify it and part, whatever it is, there's no master plan for signage in the
Like-
town.
like,
The cultural events, where to go, where the trails are, what's going on.
that's why I think we need an app.
But I mean, that, I
Right,
mean, there is, but it's a consistent thing that I kept seeing.
Okay.
Also talking to different committees, it's like, you know, this group doesn't want to do it, they're expecting the other partner. I'm thinking of, Design Advisory Committee having responsibility for something, but sharing it with you guys, and certain things just, we don't want to do it, they don't want to do it, we don't, it's complicated and
Yeah.
very. And
It's almost like we need like a branding and then that brand goes like for all wayfinding, right?
it is all about wayfinding.
Yeah.
And, but it's also what can be online and what lives
Yeah.
in the real world.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we've avoided.
See, I don't remember specifically, but wasn't wayfinding at some point?
It's
crossed out
actually a
in economic
subheader,
development?
but it's actually written in a lot of different subchapters too. And it's also sometimes economic development, promotion and availability or ease of visitors to find things.
And the Freedom Center is gonna be, definitely need
It's gonna,
signage,
yeah,
how to get there and where to park.
and how to, yeah.
Where to take your bus.
Do you remember we started talking about that when we were on design advisory?
Signage,
Wayfinding,
I've been talking about wayfinding for years, so.
Yeah.
But we started talking about developing like a template for town signs.
like in the style of this town or our own, do we have our own
I-
fonts that we like to use?
I guess I'm interpreting what Jackie's saying, and so correct me if I'm not getting it right, but as municipal facilities, right? And I don't know if you're talking about like, there was a template for signs, if that's more like general business signage, which to me are two.
I think it covers so many different categories. And what is in the real world and what's online and what's
Right.
useful, and if you're out roaming around, you want it on your phone so you can look it up and find it. But it's just, it covers a lot of different categories.
Yeah. Knowing where everything is, I mean, I had made a note here under make information about parks and open space more widely available, you know, how do we do that? We don't,
Okay. And
hang on just one second, we'll get to it in 1 second.
related to this, I was told by, is it Eric who owns the ice cream shop?
Yes,
That there was a study done in the eighties of signage and naming for Stockbridge Road.
yeah,
And I've not seen it, and I was curious about it, if anybody has seen
no, I
it,
don't know about that one.
because that would be interesting. It's a historic record of some sort.
Yeah.
And we're looking at it as a gateway. Wonder what they were thinking about it in the eighties. So I think it'd be useful.
I think I have that.
Do you?
I think I
Do
do.
you like it? Does it look interesting?
Has he ever read it? He hasn't.
Did you go, oh, I know.
I remember which figure the trail map is on, figure 44, page 81, but I don't remember the 1980s
Oh,
Stockbridge
too bad.
corridor study. One thing at a time.
What did you wanna add?
Oh, I just wanted to, make it known that there's now like a park subcommittee,
Uh-huh,
that is working on signage. We just met last week.
okay, great.
And so DPW is going to have an interactive, kind of a spreadsheet for, well, this is separate. So we're working on signage to be consistent across parks. We're reviewing park policy, and we just want to kind of just get the language down, take out what isn't necessary, and then just put something up on the website that clarifies parks policy, but also reduce some signage clutter in some parks, and just make some kind of a consistent sign, as well as, what do they call it, an Excel, form
Okay.
that Joe Aberdell is actually working on, that will give us information, for each park across the spreadsheet, whether like dogs are allowed,
Gotcha,
smoking, recreational, this looks like swimming, biking, what is available. So
Okay.
that is actually something that we're actively working
oh,
on right
that's
now.
great.
Now, would that be, so would Lake Manfield be part of that or not?
Yeah.
So it'd be, and it'd be, local parks, just local parks, or would it be
Whatever.
statewide or town or?
Whatever comes under like the town park and recreation commission purview.
Okay,
So that's basically the only parks that we have any kind of say in. And I guess as you bring up other items on this, I can just speak to that and what's going on right now. As far as like open space acquisition or improvements. As you go down the list.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if it ever gets to the app stage, it should really be like a Great Barrington app for all the things, like
Okay.
wayfinding for parking and for cultural, and, you know, just all different. But all in one place would be
Yeah, I'm trying to
amazing.
think, does anyone have any experience with them? The city of Hudson, New York did one a few years ago that was kind of cool, that had walking paths and, you know, were you looking for cafes or waterfront park or whatever, and you could kind of just like click through and then it would highlight on the map and then you could zoom in on it on your phone, and that's the only one I've
There are
seen.
tons of variations on this theme.
Yeah,
And it's like, what best practices are there? And where the technology isn't gonna change out from underneath you. And-
Yeah. that's probably like a big high level goal. for-
Yeah, it's a big high level goal. I mean,
Um,
but I think I just wanna say what you're doing is great, you know, it's for the parks. And coming up with signage, jumping ahead
It
of
is
the
great,
curve.
thank you.
Yeah.
Trying.
Yeah. In terms, one goal jumped out at me is like, how are parks meeting the needs of our changing community? And I don't think we have talked enough about our aging population and making sure there are park resources there. I wonder if anyone's got any thoughts on other communities we need to make sure are being served. I think there is now a focus on accessibility, right? Memorial Field and
Like
Lake
Mansfield, yes, and we're just renovating other parks, as the budget allows, so we just finished a renovation at, Grove Street Park. Put new playground equipment, and I believe, Ty and Bond came back with an ADA accessible trail around the perimeter of the park. I don't know if that has actually been installed. I was there the other day, and I think they were just focusing on the equipment first. But I think that's coming. There is, part of the commissioners, introduced earlier in the year a model for how to go forward with designing parks. Because there are parks that are kind of a blank slate in areas that are high needs, just such as Dewey Park. That's coming up in our next meeting as an agenda item. But there are budget constraints, but there are so many things we can do to just get the planning underway. And that, of course, we're looking at passive recreation, active, young, you know, multiple ways of using the park. So, that's something that we're talking about all the time, old ways and of course, some of us have some other ideas about, what can be potential spaces for large central parks for Great Barrington, like the brownfield or the fairgrounds. I mean, that's beyond what we're capable of doing, but we can talk about it.
From a vision standpoint, yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
Is there, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Is there any talk in parks about community gardens?
yes. So, when we were discussing two-week part of time bond, there was kind of a provisional sketch that was presented with the possibility of community garden there too. So right now it's just like it's a budget thing, and like a lot of other things kind of like superseded the Dewey Park discussion, but I think we're kind of circle back to that. And yes, definitely, I think trees are gonna be crucial, and I think not only just shade trees, but fruit trees, orchards, and things that kind of will enhance the usability of the park, enhance the community in many different, in many different ways.
I would think that trees, I mean, trees are pretty prominent in this plan. I think you can kind of up the ante if we update this.
I was actually surprised we only have one strategy for trees, so.
She was also on tree committee, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's
I
handy.
thought it was curious because they cited a couple trees, but they left out the McDonald's sycamore.
Yeah.
I saw
But
that.
they included most, or sycamore,
The sycamores.
or elm, I should say.
Yeah, oh,
So,
Hmm?
I had written down particularly under
oh,
trees, just recognizing the resiliency issues, right? So when this was done, that was before Main Street was redone, and it was all the monoculture of the Bradford
Bradford pears,
pears. And now it's different, but we've had so many insect issues over the last couple of years with spongy moths and emerald ash borers and So I don't know, Julie, in your capacity as tree committee,
Yeah,
what are you guys thinking in terms of big issues or maybe actions that need to be considered?
we've been doing a lot of work, actually. So and I spoke, in front of the select board and that special finance meeting, and, they voted to add trees as like critical infrastructure in like the first tier of priorities.
Yeah.
So that was good. No guarantee that it's gonna be funding. I think funding is a real issue for us. And I feel like, it has to be just a consistent, funding item in every budget. No matter what, it is critical infrastructure. So we are working with that in mind, and last year we did manage to get $20,000 at town meeting. About 25 trees were planted. A few nurseries are giving us like a handful of trees for this fall planting, just to offset how many trees are taken down every year. As far as priority, we're looking everywhere. We've made a KML map of locations around Housatonic, Main Street, all over Great Barrington, the residential neighborhoods. So, we've tackled Everett Street, Hollenbeck, a couple of locations on Main Street. Where we see a really huge need is, Main Street, actually, because the planting plan was actually not appropriate for the scale of the downtown. So there are shads there that are dead, and other trees provide shade, and they're just, in a way, in an anthropogenic setting such as Main Street, monoculture doesn't really make much of a difference if it's like Bradford pears or trees that aren't really susceptible to insect infestations or boring or disease. Where we want to find places where, we have a more, heterogeneous mix are like the neighborhoods, native plantings, primarily shade. We've managed to plant in locations that are highly visible, and we're actually getting requests from private citizens to plant more in their neighborhoods or on their blocks. The issue is funding.
Have you had any conversation about strategies for like public-private partnership in trees? Like, I know one thing we've
Yes.
struggled with in terms of Route 7 landscaping. I'm gonna speak for myself, but when we did MXD and we went south on Main Street, it was really nice to see mature trees that overhang the road there. They add a lot, they cool the sidewalk, they cool the pavement. And so with that in mind, we've done these Route 7 landscape plans, but often applicants come before this board, they get an approval, their approval includes a condition to plant X number of trees. They dutifully put the trees in and leave them, right? And then they die. And I can't think of a site where they're successfully, Guidos, I guess. Theirs look good,
They're still alive.
but they're still.
That's our Stockbridge Road here.
And when we're up, towards Stockbridge, I mean, the entire corridor should be lined with trees. There's just like.
And trees have been planted associated with site plans that have come, but they have not survived, because there's not like a mechanism to help maybe encourage landowners to take more ownership or have resources through the tree committee that they can access or something like this. So I think we'd like to talk about having a partnership with the tree committee that can help create opportunity for maybe better success in trees that have been planted associated with plan approvals.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about the business lots. I'm talking about just like the green strip along the sidewalk. Those are just prime areas, and we're trying to figure out like who we need to speak to about those particular locations, because some people say it's Department of Transportation, it's hands off or town of Great Barrington, but I think conversation with DTA, but Department of Transportation, I don't know.
DOT.
Is a good start.
I think the issue you have over there are the power lines.
Not on
No,
that side of the
one side.
road, they're on the other, they're on the other side of the road.
So,
And it's a major transportation corridor for like people just walking, for pedestrians and for cyclists. I think it's just, you know,
Until recently, there were several big ash trees, right? But they came down in the last
That's
2
right.
because of emerald ash borer.
Is that why they took those
Yeah,
ones down?
they were
Or-
dead, yeah, they were
but you
dead or
don't have
died.
to plant ash,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But on the,
But they
on the
didn't-
east side of the road there, to Brandy's point, it might be good to reach out to some of those property owners, because they do have their buildings set back off the roads. So if they would let the town
And those old pictures of Stockbridge
Yeah.
Road, it's like,
There,
plant some trees there.
yeah, I should email you separately
Yeah.
because I work with the Village of Rhinebeck
Mhm.
over in New York, and they have a brow program, a tree brow program, which brow is the acronym for Beyond the Right of Way, where they have
That's
public,
great.
yeah, public-private partnership with individual landowners. The town will plant a tree, the landowner agrees to care for the tree, and they're trying to address issues of having trees under power lines that like always have to be pruned within an inch of their lives and end up being weak because of it, so. The tree committee chair there would be, I'm sure, a resource. She's very passionate about
You know what else I would love
relationships.
is to have some outreach to the landowners in town that own parking lots. Like Wheeler and Taylor, or like, you know, these
Yeah.
hedge fund guys behind the Barrington block.
But in parks, we talk about trees all the time. There are people that come to the meetings that are requesting like just tree planting by Memorial Field, you know, where
Yeah.
Memorial Field and the skate park meet. Housatonic was a big one because, you know, shade was a real issue there. So, you know, slowly but surely, the problem is, like, I just found out recently, we are not allowed to solicit like from the nurseries, like not, no money, of course, but even like to ask them to donate trees, it's not really allowed. And we're just finding this out. So it's really hard without like a dedicated budget. I think CPA funds would be a great avenue to like address park improvement with trees and trees for, you know, the general neighborhoods and roadways.
There've got to be other sources of money for this, that
Yeah.
just it
We haven't
seems.
found any.
Because I
I don't know if you can do roadways for trees for CPA, but parks. it's probably-
Oh, sure, but I think CPA, you know, when you're talking about recreation, bicycle paths or bicycling,
Sidewalk,
running,
the
it's
walk,
all, could be considered recreation.
Well,
that's-
to Julie's point though
But not
about
when they're on
trees.
the, that's what my question before about when they're transportation along the roadways. Because there was a municipality in Massachusetts that did one, and then it went to court, and the funding got
that's
taken away
interesting.
for sidewalks. They
Yeah.
tried to do,
I
where,
was-
where I was before I moved here, there were like adopt the trees.
Yeah.
Funds and activities.
That's what we're
And
trying to
then
do.
the town actually had, or the city actually had a nursery
Mhm.
where they raised all these plants and trees and this, that, and the other, and they were just put into the parks when they were ready. Do we not have anything like that?
We're actually working on exactly that kind of proposal. We want to talk to, well, the nurseries, I think, are not really interested. They just have too much on their plates and they don't have dedicated greenhouse space just to grow for the town. But we were thinking, even contacting the high school, because they have a greenhouse and it could be a program for their students just to keep a stock of trees going year after year, and once they get to like, you know, semi-maturity, the planting height, you know, that would just, they would be like an integral part of that. But that is not enough, you know?
No.
We need actual money for maintenance, for watering, for the labor. So it's a lot of little different parts, and
And following up in what Brandy's saying about maintaining the tree, you know, keeping it alive after it's been
Mhm.
planted.
yeah, it's a big part, and DPW has been, has taken their truck out and watered all the new plantings from last fall. So, you know, we have that, but
Well, keep making noise because it's gonna get
we are,
attention.
we have the whole PR thing that we're working on, so, you know, that's our project for this winter.
That's awesome, thank you. No, we appreciate that. The other two big goals, embrace the Housatonic River, probably should be updated to reflect the latest with the river cleanup. I think that's,
Yeah.
a big thing.
There are 5 different locations in this area of the master plan where they keep saying, we've got to extend the river walk, we've got to extend the
That's
river
a
walk. And
excellent point.
and it's like, let's go up to here, let's go down to here. We've done some of it, but we haven't done all of it. And it's just called out so many different times. And then also there's the question of maintenance and how much money comes from the town to help maintain it. But it's just everybody needs money. But that's such an important goal. And also getting the river walk up in Housatonic.
Yeah. Yeah, that, I don't know what the vision is for that in Housatonic.
If it's still there, because it was written up in
It
here.
was written in the master plan,
Yeah.
Yeah,
develop a river walk in Housatonic, but
Was it the rising one?
yeah.
Yeah, rising pond.
No, it's.
No, it was going along.
It was different.
yeah, it
Somewhere
was
along.
from,
Where?
from Berkshire Mountain Bakery into town.
Yeah.
From Mills to the bakery.
To the bakery, yeah.
Hmm.
But now, I mean, if the town takes over a piece of land, along Rising Pond, I mean.
That's the other side.
That's the other side
That's
of
the
it.
other side.
Well, I met with Doug Brown from the NRC to talk exactly about that, about access to that 100-acre parcel of land. And the NRC is looking and exploring exactly a Housatonic River walk, either on the east or the west side of the river.
Oh, that'd be excellent.
Yeah, no, BNRC spent a lot of work.
They've done a lot of things for us.
Did that-
So Chris, currently there's one boat launch in town, right?
No. Is,
Well, if you don't, I mean, into the river.
No,
No,
is that
there's-
Division
There's a
Street?
second up in Division
Is that one?
And there's one.
But the Brookside's not an official one, is it?
I
yeah,
think it
No, I
is.
It
think
is?
that
It's
one
got
is
signage and everything.
yeah, the Division Street didn't used to be, but it was funded by CPA. money.
CPA.
And then there's a launch at like Mansfield, as you know.
Right,
It's not
that's why I
river.
And then,
qualified with the river.
yeah, the other river access was closed.
Yeah, is that
Which
the,
one is that?
One near the high school, that's been blocked off,
the,
Near Searles.
you mean
Okay.
Searles?
the Searle School.
Yeah.
That's what I meant,
So-
that high school.
Is it a Chris, is it a possibility on the opposite side in that little greenway, at the 100 Bridge Street site, is there a possibility for boat launch there or no?
No, it's pretty steep. The other launch that's been discussed for decades is possibly at the end of Cone Avenue near the pump station in Housatonic, just south of Berkshire Mountain Bakery. That would access Rising Pond.
I wish we could do one at Stanley Park.
Yep, Stanley Park, that's the place.
There's an informal one there already. But
Yeah,
not
Don't tell anybody.
safe for a casual user.
yeah. Pedro and I have an idea for a triathlon, if we can get a boat launch there.
Is this a slide from Cottage
We've
Street?
been talking
Bridge?
about it for like 8 years.
We should just do it. You and I will just do it.
So Brandy,
Yes.
the discussion about Lake Mansfield needs to be updated as well, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah, huge amount of change. on
And then
that.
I read something that under OSR 9.2,
Yeah,
which institute land use controls like sensitive home siting and subdivision regulations that have as a primary design purpose conservation of habitat area. What the hell is that about? Anyone have any
I
idea?
don't know.
Is that the PERD? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well,
But nothing's been instituted.
we've seen how effective the PERD is.
Those are strategies that we've discussed before where the subdivision regulations would require clustering and protection of sensitive land. The special permit option would be to not cluster. So right now you can do a special permit and do a PERD or open space residential. But that's by special permit. This suggests flipping it and making the de facto standard protection and the special permit option the easy way out, or the easy development, the typical development.
What do you think of that?
We've discussed that before.
You have mentioned that before, that's
What
absolutely.
about with that and then also like, maybe like a farming component for the open space? That's a stretch.
I mean, that I'm aware of development patterns like that where, you know, you're clustering the development in one corner of an agricultural field and leaving the rest in agriculture.
Mhm.
My experience is it can be a little bit tricky because sometimes residential development and farming are not totally
Yeah.
synergistic. You know, if you're spreading manure or,
Yeah.
you know, generating dust when you're tilling or whatever, but, it is another strategy for trying to maintain viable farmland.
Well-
That's why buyers have to sign a right to farm.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're totally right.
And then specifically, I was thinking about like, you know, farming land access to like people that normally can't afford it. So like, the farmstead for farmers thing,
Yeah,
like that, but then something like how to work that into zoning too, and, you know, and using the by right option as opposed to a special permit is like I don't know, we'll see in the other, you
I
know,
think,
how effective that
I'm
is.
making a note
but-
under agriculture, so. You know, what programs are there that can combine, open space and agricultural preservation, or even development and agricultural preservation? Take a look at that. Anything else in open space, like big things that you guys, I mean, there's definitely a lot that's been done, so definitely a lot that needs to be updated. I'd like to have a conversation with Concom about what their thoughts and strategies are around invasive species. I know they are tackling some invasive species projects at different open space properties, but I don't know if they're doing any other monitoring per strategy when they're under maintaining biodiversity.
You know, I think that land that is, I don't know what it's called, but it's north of town on the way to Stockbridge. Head north, all that land is on the east side.
Fountain Pond.
And all of it, all the way up there. All of that, a lot of that is in private hands. And it seems like a massive area for conservation. And I know that development in this, on some of those lots are being tricky. And that there's likely not a lot of danger of development happening in there, but it is a huge resource. It goes all the way down, you know, Monument Valley Road. It's huge and it's all in private hands. I wonder if there's any,
And it's all Great
There's-
Barrington land?
and there's no, yeah, it's all Great Barrington and there's no mention of it in here at all.
Are you talking about like that?
Actually, I'm sure.
Part of it is, yeah, but you know, it's flat out there.
Well, I think it was this figure, priority conservation areas, I mean, it identifies, so it's figure 18 on page 35 of volume 2.
Mhm.
And I mean, some of this is floodplain, right? So, some of the priority conservation
But
areas,
I'm more like.
but you
all
were
of
talking
this, yeah.
about the Monument Valley
Yeah.
Road section.
So which,
I
you're
think-
talking on the east side of the Monument Valley Road?
I think the community values the very like agrarian nature of that, and the zoning is pretty,
Some of that was, I
It's
think some
all
of that was put into
residential.
conservation, because I know,
that's like most of the town, right? It's
Well,
our,
I'll tell you, it was Shep who brought it to my attention. That's an area of land that
you think it's at risk of
he
development?
does.
He
He
thinks it's
does.
at
He lives on
risk.
Monument.
so there's a lot of, is there a lot of wetlands in that mixed in with
There
that?
are- Yeah, there's a lot of issues, so.
I mean, if you ride your bike on that road
Yeah.
in the middle of summer, it's filled with the little red salamanders.
The rednecks.
Yeah.
No, but I don't know, there's no mention of it in here.
Yeah, no, maybe it's an area that.
And it's not, like,
Are you
it's
talking
not
about
so
the-
much active farmland now, it's farmland, but not being farmed, right? Some of it.
I don't know, it looks pretty wet to me, I don't know.
There's a couple.
The
big
areas that are
portions.
open now, I think are just being mowed for hay. I think for the most part, you're right.
Yeah.
That it is not, it's not working agricultural land besides hay, although hay is an important crop.
Yeah.
But
I think at least some mention of it in here.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it's slowly, but I think Shep's right, because if you look at Monument Valley Road, they're slowly being developed.
Yeah. And on the other side, if you're up there near Stockbridge and you look on the other side of the lands, there's already development happening too.
On,
I mean,
Up on the hill.
we're gonna slip into a discussion on land use and land use and housing.
there's a
but-
lot of that, I think, is like in the Great Barrington sites in conservation though, right?
Yeah, I mean, we probably should look at what is in conservation, but I think one of our challenges is that Massachusetts state law allows these frontage lots to be created, right? So if it's not protected, it can just be whacked up and, that's happened all over our community. Kind of an inefficient way of development and deteriorates the scenic quality and promotes sprawl and like kind of all the things that we're not very excited about. So I don't know if there are tools we can deploy to try and prevent that in areas where we see there
Well,
might be
yeah,
potential.
I mean,
the
that's,
Conservation Commission can do it, but Jeff doesn't seem to think that that's the job of the commission. Which is
To limit development.
no, to pursue conservation of land.
I see,
So for
okay.
him, the point of the commission is to enact the wetlands protection.
I see, okay.
I had a question about this under that OSR 9.2
Yeah.
because when we're looking at it, we're often looking at like developments that would at least require site plan review, but what about just, single family homes or, like, is there, because there's like nothing, right?
To what?
What do you mean?
To preserve,
If it's by right, it's by right.
I know, because it's by right, right? And so.
Came before us.
Like, is there? Yeah, I mean, how do you do that?
I mean, the protection there would be the Wetland Protection Act.
Yeah, but then if it's wetlands, I mean, like the west side of that, I mean, there's not much left over on the west side, but all of that's
Are we
not,
talking about Monument Valley Road now?
yeah,
Okay.
that's not,
Yeah.
that's not wetlands on that side,
The
right? It's
the
only,
whole east side is just wetlands, but the west side is being developed. I mean,
yeah, I mean, there's still some that hasn't been.
what's wrong with the land being developed? I mean, we have to carefully balance,
I agree with you.
Well,
public land.
Well,
versus-
what I think's gonna happen, and you have it in a few places, is it's gone up to the ridge. right?
Okay. Well,
And do you want? And it's like, I mean, it hasn't been because that's all in conservation, but. Like along Stockbridge Road, right? Like that ridge isn't developed and I think that's all. Conserved, but on the opposite side of the,
So we have a map for scenic road, what's protected.
Well, I mean, Monument Mountain's protected, and then there's a lot of state land behind that.
Oh, yeah, off Beartown area, all that.
Then there's what was the land that,
Here, Scenic
Change
Mountains
hands
Act,
recently.
that's page 73 of volume 2.
yeah,
Shows all the lands that are protected under the.
page 41 shows the development trends with the protected lands and where houses are actually on.
So, yeah, I don't know. Chris, are you able to share page 73 of volume 2 on the screen? So we have the color version.
oh my gosh.
Awesome, thank you. That's so much better than the black and white version. I'm gonna lobby for a color version of my.
Well, we have
So what it is,
color.
right? So I will admit, I don't fully like. How protective is scenic mountains? Let's see, regulates removal, filling, excavation, clearing and vegetation.
I mean, they show up, the Conservation Commission will go to the site and visit and monitor what trees come down and they develop planting plans for replacement and that sort of thing, so.
In that,
And they can't prohibit you from clearing and building in the areas that are protected.
Jonathan, in your real estate work, does Scenic Mountains Act, in your opinion, put any kind of guardrails on development on certain parcels?
makes it a lot harder to sell certain parcels.
Okay, because it's more restrictive.
Yeah, and you never know what you're gonna get into and like, I call them eco-Nazis, but
So, but there are examples of people who have built in high places and cleared hilltops, so there must be
Yeah, but-
a way to get through.
no, but that was all done before the Scenic Mountain Day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like all that Craig Ogerstrom Lang did on Longtown Road there.
Yeah.
All of those, he did all that, knowing that Scenic Mountain Day was coming in.
I
He
didn't know
got up
that.
there, and cleared everything.
Blue Hill Road, it made the Scenic Mountains Act, gave it some energy to.
Got it.
It's a
Okay.
regulation, it's not necessarily a prevention.
Okay. All right, just in the interest of time, because I don't know about you guys, but I didn't eat dinner before I came here.
So,
So, economic development. So we used to have an economic development committee that sort of dissolved.
Word, ouch.
To me, we probably want to have an economic development conversation with the select board.
Yeah.
They sort of absorbed the component of the economic development committee. Big things that jumped out at me reviewing this was, how work has changed in our community in the last dozen years.
Since the pandemic,
And especially since the pandemic.
a lot of people working from home now.
Yeah, exactly. This talks a lot about broadband. I will confess, I don't have a ton of knowledge about like where we have broadband and where we have enough connectivity or whether people are really raising that as an issue anymore. I mean, do you guys have a sense of that?
Still an issue.
So what do you know about it, Malcolm? I
Well, I mean,
talked about it.
the spectrum connectivity is still a problem, uploading especially.
Yeah,
And if you're a business
it's
and,
expensive too.
yeah, and you need to upload data, then, you know, you really need an alternative.
okay,
And so we need to get fiber into the businesses and the homes.
okay, so that is still.
You never leave that
So
behind.
where is the town relative to fiber optics?
I don't know, Chris, do you have any knowledge of that?
Because it used to be, when I first asked them, they said they couldn't install it because it was Great Barrington. They were installing in Egremont, but they couldn't install, 100 feet away.
Was this the Wired West initiative?
This was talking to,
Egremant's, vendor.
virtually fiber. Yeah.
Okay,
And then suddenly they said they could.
Oh, really?
And so I now have fiber,
oh,
He's
Megahertz.
he's
But-
telling us all now.
but the fiber optic cable was already running to the Steiner School, so it was already accessible there. The infrastructure was there,
Yeah.
but I don't know if someone in Housatonic wanted to install it, if they would do it.
yeah,
Well- The town received a grant and also appropriated funds for a $700,000 project to run fiber optic into Housatonic. It should be getting going this calendar year and done by the end of the fiscal year. That will make possible, first of all, connect town buildings in both Housatonic Village and Great Barrington. And it will make possible, Jonathan, an experience like yours where a resident, where the fiber optic goes past, they can opt in to a service.
Right.
In the village, it will also enable a fiber-backed free Wi-Fi system because the cell phone service is poor in parts of the village. So a fiber-backed Wi-Fi will allow
Yeah.
internet connection.
It seems to me that we should definitely have the same thing in downtown Great Barrington, that we should have a Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi throughout the town for visitors.
Wasn't Fiber Connect trying to do that for us?
Well, they were connecting a lot of the downtown buildings, but I
Yeah.
don't think it was never gonna.
There was an initiative to try to get
Yeah.
Wi-Fi downtown, ran into obstacles with easements, using private property for antennas and conduits. So that was
Right.
a big obstacle.
So who's the provider that you have? Is that Spectrum?
No.
No, that's who, is it Fiber?
Yeah.
Connect?
Fiber Connect.
Yeah.
So the other thing with economic development, I mean, obviously connectivity to the bigger world is huge and probably touches upon lots of aspects of economic development, but I think we can tie housing to it pretty closely as well, right? Just our lack of housing may be a break on economic development. Chris, one thing I was looking for, and I'm looking for it again, because I thought you mentioned we have it, was just a map in the existing master plan that shows the extent of sewer water infrastructure in the town.
Probably in the utilities chapter towards the end of volume 1 or volume 2.
Okay,
And it is, and
yep, go ahead.
what, with housing too, wasn't that one of the things with Windflower, and is it with Thornwood that one of like the groups of users are people moving into the area for work? Or was that more, is that what?
I believe the feedback we got from Windflower was that particularly with some of the like suite style rooms, that it was seasonal people, the people who are here for seasonal work.
Oh.
Yeah, so maybe someone who's coming up.
Page 160, in volume 2. Sorry to interrupt you there, but
No, that's okay.
Figure 69. Volume 2, which is
Figure
out of
six-
date. Out of date.
no, it's page 160. I know.
There is no 160.
I've got page one
I
49,
got-
figure 69.
160 out of 206 on volume 2.
I only have page
I have
157.
pages.
You got gypped.
So the paper
Did
one
get
is
gypped.
page 149,
Oh.
figures
Oh, it's different on
69.
149,
Yeah.
okay.
It's drinking.
So
So,
obviously,
Chris,
Houstonic Water will be a point of, economic
Say
development.
that one more time, please, I'm sorry.
Houstonic Water certainly figures into the utility
Absolutely.
discussion.
Yeah,
Tell you
I had,
the one thing I came that stuck with me about this chapter is the overall emphasis on cultural and retail and seasonal sort of jobs and entrepreneurialism, and how it seems like this master plan puts all its eggs in that basket. You know what I mean? It does mention some development of other entrepreneurial ideas using existing buildings and so forth and everything, but I would love to see a kind of rewrite that acknowledges that the main economic driver, let's say, of the town are these sort of, I don't know, you wanna call them service jobs, but jobs at restaurants and at retail shops. But that we need to do a better job of like promoting entrepreneurialism. Of, I don't know if zoning plays a role, but. And I don't know, it just seems like those jobs are not sustaining the community as it is now. And.
yeah,
I'm
we're
not
not
sure
trying to
that
hold
it-
on to our
It
kids.
makes a whole lot of sense for that to be the emphasis of the master plan. I think the master plan. We should have a more emphasis on. Attracting businesses to come here. Investing in the community, maybe doing, if there's even a section in there that says that, offering incentives. Financial incentives to companies is not a great idea because it might affect the town or whatever, which is. A good argument to make, but I would like to see a little bit more growth in the types of jobs and opportunities that the town offers.
One of the things that jumped out at me, it's not mentioned in here, is co-work spaces, which feeds exactly into that, because that, you get a lot of creative people and they start businesses that way.
Is there a demand for it now? Because I
There's
saw
a
it,
lot of-
when this was written back then, that was just the buzzword with co-work space and entrepreneurship, and I was getting really dubious about just the the language and the pushing behind it, and it felt like, well, we don't have jobs for you, but we're gonna call you an entrepreneur, but.
You know, I was working with somebody who has a building up in West Stockbridge, and he's got a co-working space up there that is full.
Who's in, tell
It's
me,
got a waiting list.
I mean, I've
we-
seen them collapse, so I'm just.
Well, we have one above Tom's Toys. I think there are 2 floors above Tom's Toys, and also,
Is that still functioning?
I think so.
Ace gone and.
What happened with Thornwood in that? Because that was something they were trying to promote in their
With what?
Thornwood. That was something they were, in their presentations of it, they were trying to promote.
Co-workspace?
Yeah, for their,
In the public
So-
For the
space.
residents?
I think we're getting.
not
into
just for the
these-
residents,
I
but
think
for
in the end, I
non-residents as
think
well.
it could
You're
be
thinking about
something
the way
that's
of thinking
mentioned in
about it.
there as a
And-
form of
and there's-
generating, you know, entrepreneurialism in town.
And there's the old, country carpets, country
Country curtains,
curtains. That was taken over and is now,
Is that a maker space? now?
yeah.
Yeah.
it's Artists, but it's a co-work space for
Right.
sort of artists.
I guess, my thought on economic development, I think. I wanna encourage us to consider it in terms of the same ways we think about housing opportunities for all, right? Like economic development for all. So. There are a lack of skilled laborers in our community, in all the trades, right? How can we create more opportunities there? There's huge demand, you know, there's a big mismatch, that there's an opportunity for kids to have good careers
Mhm.
and stay in the community, but.
It makes a
So-
lot of money.
The
So I
cost of
think
living.
co-work space, I think of that as more of a white collar, professional. Maker space, I think is a, great opportunity for old mills to be redeveloped, but I think we gotta think about. Trades as well, and how there's so much demand in our
But
area,
I think that should go back to the high school. And they should be,
but economic development, right?
well, I
But I
understand,
think-
but if the high school has a bigger vocational training program, then you're gonna be turning out a lot of carpenters and plumbers and electricians who are making big money.
So
I don't-
And they can afford
invite
to stay,
them
and they
in the
can afford,
master plan.
they can afford to stay here.
Yeah, cause when we go to try and pay for that at the school, it's gonna be a battle, so.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, but I think it should appear here, I think both things should appear here.
This is a vision
And also-
document too. It's not just,
And I
Yeah,
think,
absolutely, Jackie.
I think both things should be in the high school. I mean, we need a vocational, but
so what, I have a question about, in the very beginning, it just says. Sorry if I sound really bad here, but they say that one of the attractors to Great Barrington. Is its excellent schools. And this is.
in the
do we still-
beginning, it doesn't say excellent, but at the end, it says excellent.
Well, it starts with
gets-
excellent
it
because I
gets
underscored it. but
better.
it Basically, do we have excellent schools here now? Just with all the churn in the
Depends
high
on whether you're
school?
talking about physical or you're talking about education.
I'm talking about education. I mean, I'm just wondering use of the word, because that's a big draw.
We are still.
Are we
known
still considered-
regionally for having, we have a lot of school options here, we have the Steiner School, and we have Simon's Rock, and we have our high school, and. The quality of the education, the teaching is good, I don't think we're like in the, top 10% in the state, but we're. Not in the middle either, so we're above average.
Because I was looking at the language
Yeah.
here, and it was very promotional and positive, and that's one of the selling points of the town.
I think Lennox might be a little above us, but I think
Yeah.
we're,
For the county, we're,
I think we're up there.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, I just wanted to get the group response.
The one thing though is that we did lose BCC, right?
We did lose BCC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That said, they have switched to a remote model also, like kids can still take BCC classes by a remote education. So
Right, but that's kind of anathema to this.
there's educational opportunities.
There's
I mean,
a
there
term
are, I
here
mean, mine,
in here
did
that's called
IBCC
economic
driving-
opportunity
driving, but-
areas. What is that? That's in the area that's talking about blighted buildings. The strategy ED 3.4.
There was
Oh, I
kind of a program promoted by the state 15, 20 years ago that made tax increment financing and other financing to job creators possible. So first you had to have a EOA, economic opportunity area, before offering a job creating favorable tax assessment. Does that make any sense?
It started 20 years ago. Is it still living?
You no longer need that EOA designation. So it's moot at this point.
Yeah.
And Big Y got a TIF and they have to give it back because they didn't hire as many employees as they promised.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We mentioned in goal 4, the fairgrounds, I think we've gotta. That has to be revisited at some level.
And they don't, when they're talking about the workforce, they're not talking about housing costs, and that is huge,
Yeah,
hugely affecting the workforce.
Well,
Because,
cost and availability, right?
Hmm?
Cost and availability.
Yeah. Well, they're related.
yeah.
That's why it's so costly.
Because that's why a lot of our young people are leaving, because they can't afford to stay here.
We have a lot of that data in the housing study that was done. I know that's getting a little bit stale, because I think we did that in 2019.
Pandemic.
I don't know what it would take to update that. I think it'd be relevant to update it. What do you think, Chris? Do you think that 2019 housing study, what would it take to update that to reflect kind of our current condition, given the change since COVID?
Not a bad idea to.
You can write a step 1. We should, because we can do that out of administrative funds too for CPA, right, Chris?
It's not, exactly not, yeah.
We already talked about broadband, passenger rail. I
Forget that.
think that's a pipe dream. There is now bus service though, which I don't think is mentioned in here.
Micro transit.
As I was coming into the meeting, it was a Peter Pan bus that said New York City on it. Going down 23.
I mean, there's what is the summertime Amtrak train that comes into Pittsfield? The
The
Berkshire.
Berkshire Flyer.
Yeah,
But what's really likely to happen, and a lot of things have happened recently that make it likely, is a Boston to Albany line that stops at Pittsfield and Springfield, but it won't come here.
We'll go to the airport.
I guess-
Pittsfield Airport?
No, Logan.
Oh, I thought you meant Great Barrington.
Malcolm, in discussions that you may have had with regional planning around mass transit, like rail coming through the area,
Mhm.
is there discussion or concerns raised by nearby communities about how then to move people from Pittsfield out into the broader Berkshires?
Well, that's actually a problem that's being had right now with the Berkshire Flyer. Is the Berkshire Flyer, I mean, there are buses there, but very few people are using
Yeah.
the buses.
Yeah.
So basically get dumped in the middle of Pittsfield and
But
have found
and
your
we don't
way.
really have Uber. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's a serious problem, but I mean, we're talking probably years down the road before us. Right now, the problem is, getting high speed, trains high speed through the mountains.
Yeah.
West of Springfield, so they're gonna have, basically, they outlined an idea of, and I'm talking about the state transportation folks, from Boston to Albany. But it will it'll initially be Boston to Springfield,
Mhm.
and then, the Connecticut lines will run up through Vermont.
Yeah.
Connecting to Springfield. And then they'll work on the Springfield to Albany, so we're talking.
Maybe in my lifetime.
Yeah, probably not
before I
mine.
die. Huh, okay.
But it's, actually, it's, up to this point, it's been studies,
Right,
with nothing definitive. They've actually come up with a real plan
okay,
now, and there's some funding for it, so,
like design and track of.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
And
Do they have a clear right of way?
Yes,
Track now.
yes,
Yeah.
but it's winding and the tracks aren't fast, so
But I mean,
They can't go, even Amtrak has to slow down when they go.
I mean, I just don't know if they have enough right of way to go fast. I mean, they just, when they roll through towns, I mean, how much?
Well, I think we're talking more
They-
about
they
through
have
the
plenty
hills
of
than the
space.
towns, but
Yeah, I mean, they've had their rights of way for 200 years, so.
But I think when you're going at a certain speed, when you're
That's-
going, whereas if you're trying to go fast, I think you need like,
well,
keep people.
Really?
yeah, in the cities, they have to slow down and use the whistles unless there's actually a method that the towns can adopt to block off intersections, the train crossings
Mhm.
securely that allow the trains to go through without blowing the whistles
And I
and at higher speeds.
think that often
Yeah.
comes with perimeter fence too on both
Yeah,
sides of the
yeah,
track.
yeah,
so
it's
that
gotta be very
it's
secure if you
restricted.
can,
Yeah, yeah, which that then becomes a whole like
That's a whole
community
nother-
character and access.
I mean, they
issue,
have it
like-
on Maple Avenue, but I think they still blow the whistle. there.
Yeah, yeah, they blow the whistles through town, and it's not, the Maple Avenue crossing isn't secure enough. As we found out when somebody got killed there.
The only other thing, in economic development that I'm gonna just mention, because I am an engineer and nerdy about these sorts of things, is just, aside from Housatonic water, water infrastructure, but just where sewer infrastructure is too, because I think where sewer infrastructure is. I think in terms of the investments we've made as a community, or for those of us who use sewer plant as a user group. There's capacity there to, have businesses and commercial enterprises and more high density residential connect into our sewer and treat the water through the water quality treatment process at the plant and discharge a higher quality water into the river rather than a million septic systems all over, and whether those are maintained or not, and the impacts they can have to our groundwater resources.
So is that a big project, infrastructure project that you're imagining?
No, I think we need to understand better where the limits of sewer services in the town and focus development in those corridors rather than expanding
It's density.
density, add density there.
We also, Chris recently mentioned this to me, that we've got some limits.
I think that's incorrect, Pedro.
On the
I
water.
was looking at Great Barrington water capacity. I think my figures were incorrect. I'm sorry.
And
I
what-
can't
So
make
that's-
up, can't make up my mind.
So anyway, I asked you to make up your mind in my email.
Yeah, I
Okay.
did some more digging and I think my math was off.
All right, more to come on that. So sewer and water
Yeah.
supply should be part of that.
Yeah, and with water, we have to engage the fire district and get their latest, because I know they're conscious of how much water they provide. You're on the system, right? Up at your house, you're on a well? Really? I didn't know that. I thought you were within the water district.
The sewer ends basically on 41 below me. Gas ends like at the end of my lot. It's like
You got
every.
no infrastructure.
And,
You're off the grid.
that's right.
Interesting, okay. I mean, so Jeremy and Malcolm and we're all in the fire district. You get an annual report. It says, this is the condition of the system, this is how much water we have, this is how much water we use. So, they keep pretty good tabs on it, but I think they've been trying to make sure they've got backup supply in case there are climatic issues that affect the infiltration galleries on the Green River.
Well, I think they're required by law to have backup.
Yeah,
plans.
which is good,
Yeah.
right? Which is good. And then I think there's plans that there may be some, we just saw the application a couple weeks ago for potential interconnect between Housatonic and the fire district out on.
Yeah, that map that on page 140 or whatever.
Yeah, 149
is.
on our-
You can actually very clearly see where the Great Barrington Fire District ends and there's a gap and then the Houstonic begins. And I forget where were they gonna go along 41? Is that where they were gonna connect, on 41 or on Christian Hill Road?
I think it was Christian Hill, yeah.
But that's only an emergency connection, right, Chris? I mean, I think we should be clear, we're talking about this.
Well, whatever it is now, it could be more later. But it's not that much of a gap on between, Christian Hill Road to Division Street.
I believe it's meant to be an emergency connection.
But at least it's connection.
There already is an agreement between the two systems if need be, but it's just not a hard pipe, if you will. It's possible to pump between the two with a pumper truck if you had to.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
It's pretty
I
simple.
think,
That's
I think all of Great Barrington should get their water out of a long pond and then we would fix it.
probably true. All right. Do we feel like we need to discuss chapter 6 housing? I mean,
I
that's
don't
like,
think it was on the agenda.
There was,
It was
I wasn't
not.
prepared for
Okay.
that. So.
Yeah,
Because I didn't read it.
That's another
great,
story.
okay.
Moving
I
into that.
like flipped through it and I was like, we talk about housing all the time. I feel like
We
we
can
got
wait a
that,
week.
that chapter pretty well covered, so, okay. So in terms of, discussion with the select board, I think I should maybe circulate to everybody just an outline of
Yeah.
why we're thinking about the master plan. Like I said, I went to the select board and talked to them several months ago. And sort of gave them the high level overview, but what do we want to get out of our meeting with the select board? Is it priorities to focus on in terms of an update? I think we can put forward some ideas on priorities. We've looked at kind of which information is most tired and probably ready for a refresh.
You mean update on the master plan?
Yes, yes.
Do we
I'd like
want-
to get some concurrence.
Do
from
we
the
want
select
them to do anything besides just endorse the process?
I think contribute their thoughts on it, but
Mhm.
if not, endorse the process, yeah. I mean, they expressed their support for
Yeah,
us
a long time
undertaking
ago.
this several months ago when I met with them,
And
so. It's just, I like to go into a meeting with like a goal and objective, like what we
Well-
wanna get out of a meeting, we don't wanna just sit and have a coffee clutch, right?
well,
yeah,
yeah, I'd like to see us work together more, than I think. Right now, when the planning board brings something to town meeting, a zoning change or something, you know, like the PER thing,
Mhm.
the select board thinks should be them
Mhm,
instead of, so there's this constant fighting
Mhm.
about that, and clearly, planning board should be the special permit granting authority for anything to do with zoning
Mhm.
and not the select board, but you know, they don't want to give it up. And I don't know whether it's ego or what, but it'd be better for the town if,
that may be a subcommittee negotiation we need to have, right, you know?
I think that subcommittee's dead, isn't it?
which subcommittee?
No, we may need to form a subcommittee to
No,
negotiate
that's what
that.
I was,
Yeah.
I mean, that subcommittee
But-
doesn't exist anymore,
Yeah.
right?
No,
no,
So
it's sort of,
then, do we want to?
And the
Think
subcommittee
about
actually,
establishing a
I'm sorry, but the
working
House
group.
agreed,
Yeah.
and
that
then
has nothing to do with
the
this.
select board
Yeah.
members changed their
I
vote
see, okay.
at town meeting, so.
Well, so just going back to master plan,
A working group,
a working group,
let's use that term,
yeah. Okay.
and they could have a designated rep.
No, I think legally it probably has to be called a subcommittee, I don't know.
Uh,
unless
'Cause
it's
Oh,
one
because
and
you're
one,
getting into open meeting.
One and
law.
Or
one.
2 and 2.
2 and 2 is a subcommittee.
Unless they're volunteers.
I think 1 and 1
well, we can pick it
can
up.
be,
Well, if you have to have an agenda and minutes,
I think
that's
it's-
okay too.
Yeah, I think that's good.
1 and
It's not a
1.
bad thing.
So why don't we outline for them, I think we have like a very high level discussion. And I feel like I should send Steve then kind of a heads up, like we'd like to have a high level discussion on what major issues have arisen since the plan that you think should be covered in an update, you select board, you know, what are you seeing? We
Yeah.
can share what we think. But then I think also, Jackie, like kind of our communication strategy and outreach and engagement strategy, I'd really like the select board to be on board.
Yes.
And we can say like, the planning board and select board jointly are outreaching to the rest of the committees and commissions to engage in this process so that we've got kind of their blessing with that. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, that's good.
All right. We only have an hour, so I always think like that hour goes so fast.
Hmm.
All right.
No,
I will
do you,
wait.
can anybody give me the top 5 issues that we see or areas that we think should be altered or changed or really seriously updated in this plan?
No,
From my standpoint, I
for
would
your-
say like aging community, aging infrastructure, lack of housing, economic development and climate. If I were gonna pick 5 things. What do you think? Anybody? I mean, everything's important, right?
yeah, I mean, and we haven't gone through half of the master plan yet.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, what you just listed are gonna be hot buttons.
Okay, I got 4. What's the 5th one?
Did you get aging first?
I have aging, infrastructure, community, lack of housing, climate change,
aging population,
Two
aging
aging.
infrastructure.
2 agings.
Yeah,
I have 2 agings. I have lack of housing, climate change.
housing, climate, oh, and economic development.
Okay, thank you.
Good, okay. All right, do we have a town planners report?
The board received today from the director of the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission a note about a bill pending, I believe, that would affect local municipalities' ability to control the siting of energy facilities. You've all received that. I'll just read it. I think it must have been sent to all planning boards in the county. Governor Healy just submitted a bill to the legislature called the FY 2024 Closeout Supplemental Budget Bill and Act Making Appropriations Fiscal Year 2024, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That includes provisions to remove local control over the siting and permitting of energy facilities. The language mirrors bills approved this summer by the state Senate and the House, and currently in conference committee to resolve differences on secondary issues. I respectfully ask that you ask your state representatives and senators to vote to strike those sections related to energy facilities from the governor's proposed FY 2024 closeout supplemental budget bill. And then just summarizing, as Berkshire Regional Planning Commission has repeatedly commented previously, these provisions would effectively remove local control from the approval process for large and small clean energy infrastructure facilities. The proposed legislation imparts too much power and authority to the energy facilities siting board and not enough at the local level. So that's the request from the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, and you can all follow up as you see fit. That's all I have.
It also said that they're really focusing out here because we have the land.
Yeah, there's 2 issues. One is the siting. By this law, anything over 10,000 kilowatt hours would automatically be go to the state board for approval. And it would just bypass us altogether. Anything under 10,000 would go to the local board, but then the opponent would have the right to appeal any local decision to the state board. And to override anything that we would decide. The other bad thing about the bill is that it has adders and subtractors for certain things, like if you put it on a rooftop of a parking lot, get an adder, get more money for doing it. If you put it on a green field, you get less money. The greenfield subtractor is offset by another adder that if you have public meetings. So that means somebody who proposes to put up a large solar facility in a greenfield will get a subtractor on what they can ask for money for it. But then they would that subtractor would be totally offset if they had 4 meetings, public meetings. So, it's really. It's setting it up for large scale solar in greenfields and.
So how? The Kuntz. Installation was on, that was like 9 acres or 8 or 9 acres, something like that. I don't know how many KW it was.
Yeah, I may be wrong on the 10,000 KW. I don't think I am, but it's a bit, that's a,
10,000 would be 10 megawatts.
it's a big
That is a
installation.
very.
That's huge.
that's
It's
very
huge.
big.
But how big?
Like a huge export tax.
That I don't even think was a megawatt.
I think we're dealing with 1 or 2 megawatt installations.
I don't think.
Oy.
I mean, do we have, in this town, I don't know that we have contiguous land that can do 10 megawatts.
Could you, is there anything? Yeah.
So,
But you can't do it in the scenic mountains. I mean, there's not a lot of land.
So
so
there's a lot
Boston,
of farms.
so is Boston worried they can't produce enough clean electricity for Boston?
This is a common situation in the solar industry right now, is that rural communities have the land, and so. And the land is cheaper, and to the extent that the grid is connectable, you know, the power lines can support, because you can't just put solar anywhere, right? You gotta have someplace to connect it, and so the lines have to be substantial enough, you have to have transformers.
Yeah, plug 10 megawatts into an outlet.
No, definitely not. So, so there are corridors along power lines that do get identified as preferable spaces, and some of those can conflict with, you know, rural spaces that people find aesthetically pleasing. And so how do you strike the right balance between having renewable energy, which I think this board is.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean,
been
you
very
don't want to be
supportive of.
against,
Right, with the fact that, you know, 15 or 20 or 30 megawatt is gonna be a couple hundred acres, and it doesn't matter if it's woods now, it'll get cleared. So, yeah,
And
no,
is
I
this gonna,
I
is this,
think we wanna maintain local control, we feel like we have good regulations locally. So,
what is it
what-
gonna do to land and conservation?
I don't think it has anything to do with land and conservation.
Well, when you
That's
can
already
put a
covered.
transmission lines right through conservation land, right?
I don't believe so.
well, transmission line is a whole nother issue.
And most
It's a whole nother issue.
of our farmland is in
It's
ABR.
already, yeah, protected,
So I don't know how big a concern this really is for us.
Well,
But-
I'm so going larger than that, though, is there any economic development opportunity if maybe it's not just us local, Great Barrington,
Yep.
but South County, where we all get together and say, okay, we have this land, you could do this, but we want X amount of cut and free
I
this or
said-
free that, or jobs, are there jobs that these guys have? So
But
we're
that's the whole
trading.
point, is that we would lose the ability even to negotiate.
No, I want to get a new idea on the table.
Yeah, well,
it-
unfortunately, at this point, it's a legislative idea, and the
So we just
legislative
have to say no.
control
is what we have
is
to say.
east of Worcester.
Mhm.
So-
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
issue, is we
Yeah.
lose local control. I think that's an important issue for us. We think we're being thoughtful. We don't think we're shutting down, you know, reasonable projects. We're not, I can't say that that's the case in every community, right? There are plenty of communities that just don't want solar, period. And,
Vermont,
they're all
Hill.
over the place,
the hill,
like Copac and, yeah,
Mhm.
Hill, all sorts of places. So I think we just need to decide if individually we're gonna contact our.
Well, if the only
Yes.
move we have is to say yes or no, because it's a legislative deal.
Yeah, I mean, well, the issue is really tricky right now because the legislative session is over. So any bill they pass now goes through this backdoor process. And if one legislator, Republican or Democrat, opposes it and moves to table it, it's over. It has to pass unanimously, so,
Wow.
That's interesting.
so the chances are it may not pass,
Yeah.
but,
Well, who do we outreach to? Who will-
or Smitty.
Smitty and-
Yeah,
Get Smitty.
okay, Chris, anything else?
No,
Board subcommittee updates, issues and concerns, Jeremy.
I don't think so. I mean, we met this past Tuesday with CPC. And approved the plan, but I think I said the dates before of our step 1 deadlines and step 2 deadlines. I probably didn't say what our meeting dates were in October, or excuse me, in November and December, but.
Tell us then.
Let's see, Tuesday, November 12th for our first meeting for step 1 review. I think we only have one of those scheduled. And then step 2 review, part 1 on Tuesday, December 10th. Part 2, Wednesday, December 11th. I think there's a possible part 3 on Tuesday, December 17th.
Wow, okay, great, thank you.
And I guess since we're saying it, step 1 deadline is, step 1s are due, Wednesday, November 6th at 4 p.m. Town Hall. And 2s are due Wednesday, December 4th, 4 p.m. Town Hall.
Okay. All right, good. Make sure Julie knows for trees, right?
Yeah, for a tree.
Jackie, anything for you?
I have a question. Does that count?
Go for it.
The question is, I would somehow like to nominate, and we don't have a process for this, but picking a really good, effective, active volunteer committee for the town, have an award for the best one this year or something like that,
Or
or
like
each
the
year.
Cusick Award or something.
Because I really would nominate the tree committee. I'm not, I don't know, but I mean, there's something, it's just the notion of people are actually doing something and coming forward with something and
Yeah.
making it.
Yeah.
It's a positive step,
Yeah, no,
and
that's,
it calls attention to that committee.
yeah.
Maybe that's something you can bring up with select.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think it's gonna show up in our minutes. You just nominated the tree committee. I mean, we nominated a core.
No, I did not, well, nominate them, but I'd like them as an example,
Yeah,
and then
that's
we
good.
could all
It's a nice
decide.
idea, Jackie. Thank you.
We need something.
Yeah, positive things are good.
They can get that regular budget item.
Malcolm?
I want to thank all you guys for signing up to go to the annual meeting for the BLPC annual
Oh
meeting.
my
I
God,
don't
I'm
even
sorry,
care.
Malcolm, didn't.
The keynote speaker is going to be the State Director of Housing and Sustainable Living.
Yeah.
So that'll be good, and he's gonna do a Q&A, and
Great.
there's always a lot of snoozing going on, so.
Excellent,
And we're gonna do the award for Smitty.
awesome.
Oh,
Thank
Okay.
you.
I
Don't think I've heard from Brandy or Jeremy on.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out my work schedule right now. I will let you know
It's
in
a
the next
cross-country
couple of days.
meet day for me.
Okay, well, can't go.
Let me, it's,
That's it.
and it's
Thank
in
you.
the wrong direction.
Jonathan, anything for you? No, Pedro? No, okay, nothing for me either. One last shot at citizen speak, anybody online? Nobody in the room? Okay, we'll adjourn at 7:48. Thanks, guys.